Welcome back to Hold My Merlot. It's me, Fran. I'm still your favorite childless cat lady, coming to you from Silver Spring, Maryland.
And it's me, Rami Jackson. I'm wearing a blue shirt that Fran got me, and it's very nice.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Right before we started to plan a vacation to Rwanda.
Yes.
We'll tell you all about that another day, but today we're going to start off as usual with our wine breaker. Tried a new wine this week from my local Fenwick Beer and Wine store. It's called Dawn Chorus. It's a Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand. It reads on the back, New Zealand is one of the first places in the world to greet the morning sun. This fresh start is accompanied by a down chorus, or waraki and mori, of melodic birdsong echoing from the tree. I guess that's a bird.
That's pretty beautiful.
This sound is distinctly of its place and where bird life is flourishing. This early morning wake-up call can be almost deafening. Not good for marketing, but all right.
Yeah.
Dawn Chorus makes Sauvignon Blanc from Hawke's Bay on the east coast of Aotearoa, New Zealand, where the land means as much to us as the wine we put in the bottle. Oof, that was all long and boring.
It was poetic. We're talking about how the nature of where they make this wine influenced the wine. That's cool. I liked it.
I thought it was good, but just a smidge too long, and the whole deafening thing, not a good American marketing word.
Oh, Fran, you just want something on the back that says alcohol, and then with a period. That's
Oh,
it.
shut up. I think the melodic is a better word. Deafening here typically has a negative connotation
I can hear you on that one. That one I will hit you. I'll meet you in the middle on.
Yeah.
I agree that deafening probably is the most positive, adjective, but
No, most negative adjective. I would not put that on the back of a marketing for a wine bottle. But anywho, I'm gonna try it because Rami's not drinking. Poor Rami. Alrighty, so here we go for Dawn Chorus, a Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand. I'm gonna start off with the smell. Well, you can smell it too, Rams.
Yeah, I can.
You don't have to drink it.
That smells good though. I really like it.
So this has like passion fruit, mango, all kinds of yummy, delicious fruit.
Yeah, I smelled the
flavors.
mango.
Yeah.
It jumped out.
I'm gonna give it a smell of 4. It smells good.
Yeah, I agree. That was
Yeah?
good. Yeah.
Wanna look at the color?
Color's nice. I give it about a 3.5, 4. Again, we are not wine experts.
Yeah.
Okay. I actually have a kid. I wouldn't call him a friend, but there's a guy in my high school who's in Italy who's actually a wine expert. I forgot what they call it. What do they call them? Like the only or something?
I forgot. Yeah, but where's Marty when you need him?
Yeah, but
there is a word for it though.
Yeah, we are not that, but it looks nice to me. It's golden.
I'm a wine connoisseur just by the number of bottles I've consumed over the years, but that's about it.
Practice makes perfect.
Yeah, really perfect. So, okay, so I give the color a 4. So what do you think of the color?
The color is great. Golden. It looks like, peaceful, like New Zealand. That's a country we need to go to.
It's probably like a 30-hour flight. No thanks.
Yeah, it is.
I will never be in Australia, New Zealand,
You don't want to kick with the Kiwis?
Japan, China, Laos, Vietnam. Too far, too far, too far, too far.
Rwanda wasn't a skip and a hop.
Yeah, but I was born there, so it's always good to see familiar places.
Oh no, that's cool, and I enjoyed the country.
Yeah, it was really great. But okay, so I think overall we give it like a 4. I think the wine, Dawn Chorus from New Zealand, Sauvignon Blanc, we're gonna give it a straight 4. Cheers.
Cheers.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, y'all. So we're back here in France's illustrious, wonderful Silver Spring apartment. And
decorated with TJ Maxx products. By the way, anything you see in the background, you can get TJ Maxx.
But today, despite the atmosphere that we're in, it's gonna be a pretty negative topic. We're gonna be talking about the coming Trump recession. All right,
and the induced and forced and literally Yeah, induced, I think, is the best word. It's a forced recession. It's a recession that was unnecessary.
Yep. All designed to crush worker power, to alienate us from our allies through the use of tariffs and basic American jingoism in the geopolitical arena. And it's also designed to get as many people laid off and unemployed as possible so that we have no collective voice and Trump and his fascists can just run roughshod over us in the public commons.
So basically, yeah, the topic today is the induced recession that literally was brought on by the Trump administration on purpose for absolutely no reason. There's no reason for this recession. This is just something they're doing. I don't know if it's because they want something to fix. And when I say they, I mean the Trump administration. Sometimes I feel like just like the first time Trump was in office, because he didn't know what he was doing and he didn't really want anyone to help him. As soon as he figured out what executive orders were, he just made a bazillion of them. And it's that does not equal work as the president. Executive orders are directives. They're not really law, and they can only do so much. You can't really do much with them.
Well,
and they can be reversed as soon as the new president comes in.
Well, I think you're speaking to two different things, and they're both great points. One, the use of executive orders by the Trump administration shows really how weak Trump is. A popular president with a mandate wouldn't have to use executive orders. They would
just push policy forward and laws.
Yes, through Congress,
right,
which is how the system is supposed to work.
Yes.
Trump having to resort to executive orders really speaks to how weak he is and how he doesn't really have a foundational base to stand on when it comes to getting these things across. But
neither does he care to have anything done properly. He doesn't learn. He never learned from the first administration that this is how Congress operates. It's too long to explain how budgets are passed, but there's a process by how things are done in government. There's a process for policies changed, mandates, any law that's put into place, like the Affordable Care Act, and then there are just ongoing laws that are renewed every single year that you don't know about that kind of make everything work in this country. So there are three branches of the government. We have the judicial, the Supreme Court. We have the legislative, which is Congress, the House of Rep, and the Senate. And we have the presidency. And there's checks and balances on each branch on each other. And they're supposed to balance each other out so that there's no real power. You can say there's power in all three, right? Donald Trump, even from his first time he was elected, just understood that, the guy on TV that I've been watching all these years, he's the one really doing all the work.
Well,
and it's no, the guy on TV that you've been watching, which was Obama for 8 years, and previously Bush for 8 years, right? Those guys are figureheads, right? But they only have so much power. The president has limited powers.
Well, I think it's an oversimplification because they're not figureheads. They're in charge of enforcing the laws. What's happened is three different things since the 1940s. So one, you have an increase of the power of the executive branch. And this has been something that American historians have been discussing for decades. Ever since the end of World War II, the American presidency has gotten much more powerful. And this is a stark contrast to the 18th and 19th centuries where presidents, barring some limited exceptions like Andrew Jackson, were pretty weak. And much of the power was in the hands of Congress. But ever since really the 40s, Congress has been losing its power more and more and more. And in certain cases, just really giving it away to the presidency. And in modern times, Congress is functionally broken because Congress is too gridlocked and not really able to function and like pass the laws and policies that are necessary to actually enforce an agenda. So a lot of times now it's falling to the presidency. To Trump's credit, and I hate to say this, Trump realized that American institutions are weak and cowardly. And so even though executive orders on paper don't really mean anything because they're not laws, if everyone does what he says and doesn't question it and the things that he wants happens, even though they're not laws, does it matter if they're not laws? Like, you know what I mean? Like if Trump wants to deport all these people and it's happening anyway, even though numerous judges are saying that this is laughably illegal and he can't do it, does it matter?
Right. So the topic today is the incoming induced recession. Yes, I'm just trying to make sure we stay on track.
I just wanted to say a little third point. The judiciary, the Supreme Court, has also become way too powerful, and it needs to have its powers curtailed.
Yes, agreed. So there's a number of things that Trump is doing that is basically literally kicking the American economy in the gut by weakening so many things that we had going under the Biden administration. So under the Biden administration, I think he was creating 250,000 jobs every quarter?
Yeah.
So that's basically about 1 million jobs a year. Inflation was ridiculously high, but GDP growth was good.
And even though inflation was high, America was doing better than every other developed economy when it came to tackling inflation.
That's true. We were doing better.
And inflation saw continuous drops too.
Yes, continuous drops. Yes, inflation was high, interest rates were high, but they were dropping. But like Rami said, our economy was doing better than Europe. It was doing better than
Japan.
Yeah, most major developed countries. So to some extent, it's we were feeling it at the supermarket with grocery prices, and we were feeling it with interest rates with the banks and trying to borrow money to buy cars and homes. But for the most part, the economy was doing relatively good. I will say this. I do think that the increase in food prices was exorbitant. I'll say as someone who was making a pretty decent salary that even I kind of stopped shopping a lot, going to the grocery store and just buying things that I wanted. I really was okay, what do I really need at the grocery store? Because every time I went, I realized my grocery bill that used to be $80-$90 maybe every couple of weeks had gone up to $200, over $200. And I was so everything went up twice? Everything is double?
But we have to remember, though, that inflation was a tactic. Now inflation was real, don't get me wrong. And there were supply chain issues during the Biden administration that weren't really solved from COVID, all right? It still took a while to solve some of those. But some of these things, like eggs, they caught the egg producers price fixing and working together to raise prices to exorbitant levels.
Right.
And then they would blame inflation.
Right.
The egg producers were literally fined and found guilty by the US government and forced to pay millions of dollars in fines because they were price fixing.
Right. So we're talking about the induced recession, so I'm bringing it back. So Trump has put in tariffs on Canada and Mexico.
Now there's talk that he's going to actually put tariffs on every country that does trade with the United States, 20%.
Right. So understand too that these are all postures. He puts them on, then he takes them off. He puts them on, then he says he's going to delay them. It's so bizarre. It is shaking up markets all over the world.
Yes, it is.
So if you remember back in I want to say in the 90s, the Clinton administration came up with NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. That was with Canada, United States, and Mexico, where basically goods between three countries just went free through. There was no taxes on it. That was great for the economy. Trump came in 2020 and he wanted to scrap it because he said it was really bad for the U.S. economy and the other countries were taking advantage of us. And he scratched it and brought out the USMCA, which is the US-Mexico-Canada agreement, I guess, right? And from what I've heard, it was very much the same as NAFTA because we all know Trump doesn't know anything about free trade or free trade agreements.
He's an idiot.
So he just, more than likely I've heard, like, he just put his name over NAFTA and changed like a few things, but it wasn't anything significant enough to be like, yeah, this is really going to benefit the US. So Trump is putting in major tariffs and on basically any country he picks and chooses by the day. He also takes them off whenever he wants to. He's also drumming up war calls for different countries. So
Canada, Greenland, Panama.
Right. So he wants to take over the Panama Canal, which is beyond bizarre. He's said that, he wants to take it over because the Panamanians are giving too much control and too much power to the Chinese government over the canal. Then he says he wants to take over Canada. He wants to annex it and make it the 51st state. Batshit crazy idea. The Canadians do not want to be part of the United States. And as far as I know, most Americans do not want Canada to be part of the United States. We are both sovereign nations, no offense to the Canadians. But we don't want any parts of this either. I don't know anyone during the election season who was like, yeah, we really want to take over Canada, whether they were a Democrat or a Republican, right?
But you see, like, and this is what frustrates me about this shit, all right? Like, he has been saying this for months, but as usual, people just hear what they want to hear when Trump talks. So when Trump actually says, everyone just ignores it. Trump was saying during his presidential campaign, I want to bomb Mexico. I want to bomb cartels. I will send U.S. soldiers into Mexico in order to get rid of the cartels and stop fentanyl.
Right, from
Trump
coming
is
across
literally
the board.
screaming at the top of his lungs that he wants a war with our largest trading partner. And the American media just flat out ignored it.
And I think they ignored it because he just says so much stuff. It's all over the place. And I think
that's a failure of our journalists.
To be fair to the journalists, it's like, this guy just says stuff, right? And let me continue with the crazy, crazy talk. He also says he wants to take over Greenland. He sent Vice President J.D. Vance and his wife Usha Vance to Greenland last week. Weird. No one here wants Greenland to be part of the United States. No one here is talking about Greenland. I don't think most Americans know where Greenland is, by the way. I don't even think most Americans know if Greenland is a country, okay? And most Americans don't know the complexity of Greenland. And what is it? Isn't it a territory of Denmark or something?
It's a territory of Denmark.
Right. So also, the United States has been helping the Ukraine for...
No, it's just Ukraine, not the Ukraine. That's Russian propaganda.
So the United States has been helping Ukraine, and all of a sudden, Trump comes in, and Ukraine is next to Russia, and it is a former territory, I want to say, of the USSR.
Yes, it was.
And USSR is basically Russia plus a whole bunch of other countries that have broken off. And Putin, who is the president, or the leader of the autocratic state dictatorship that is Russia, has started a war with Ukraine, and America has been helping Ukraine.
Yep.
And out of nowhere, Trump comes in, and we all know Trump loves Russia. And now we all of a sudden, U.S. policy has changed, and we are no longer helping Ukraine. We've cut off all kinds of aid and communications with Ukraine, helping them to fight off the Russians. And basically, Trump has told Ukraine, good luck. Maybe the Europeans will help you because they're the ones that will be taken over once Russia gets in there. That is crazy when it comes to the usual U.S. policy, which is typically aligned with NATO, the North Atlantic
Treaty Organization,
which is basically Western Europe and the United States combined together to basically tell any nation outside of the treaty that if you bomb one of us or if you attack one of us, we are going to or if you threaten one of us, we're gonna come after you, as all our military will come after you. So the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, for example, there were attacks in the United States. However you want to look at both of those wars, NATO got involved, and troops from France, Germany, Italy, Spain, United States. Well, it's not France?
No, France didn't. That was actually a huge contention between the U.S. and France.
For Afghanistan and Iraq?
I think so. That's why we had freedom fries.
For both of them? Okay, either way, yes, I do remember some contention, but typically you're supposed to get involved and help the other countries. So a whole bunch of militaries got together, went to Iraq and Afghanistan, and they fought there for very many, many years together to fight ISIS and what was it? The war on terrorism, et cetera, et cetera. But you get what I'm saying. Trump is against NATO all of a sudden. Europe is scared shitless. And all of this is coming out of, well, it's not really coming out of left field per se, because he was leaning more towards Russia during his first administration. But back then, the Republicans had a spine, and they would kind of, bring him back over to the NATO agreement and the NATO allies. But now it seems like nobody in Congress really cares about what's going on. So the incoming recession it's looming, because they've laid off at this point probably hundreds and thousands of federal government workers, with Elon Musk and the Doge team, a fake agency that doesn't even have any constitutional rights to make or break or destroy or end any agencies. Doge is the fake agency, the Department of Government Efficiency, that was created by Elon Musk and basically has gone into all kinds of government agencies and systems. I think they've taken a lot of information out of our agencies.
They've planted shit and backdoors into various government systems like Social Security.
Yeah, which is so weird. I'm like,
they're stealing data.
They're basically, to me right now,
and they want to do stealth cuts on these agencies. And this is how this relates to the recession, y'all. Okay? All right. When you get rid of all these government workers, you riff all these workers, you lay them off. All right. Those folks are going to enter the job market. Okay? And when they enter the job market, that makes applying for every job, particularly in the Washington, D.C. area where we live, much, much more difficult, because now you have literally thousands of people applying for the same jobs. Yeah. And not only that, but for every federal worker who was cut, there are 2 to 3 other contractors who support federal workers who are cut as well.
And there are companies that put out those contracts that have other workers working on those contracts, working on those bids, supporting those contracts, that are also going to lose their jobs.
Exactly.
And remember, it goes all the way down. It's a whole ecosystem.
Yep.
Those people that work within that company that supports that contract goes to that local Starbucks. They go to the local TJ Maxx on their break. They do things within that area. Like, for example, I live in downtown Silver Spring, and I work from home. If I were to be laid off, there's no money going to, like I said, my Starbucks. There's no money going to my TJ Maxx. There's no money going into the bars and restaurants that are on my local block. And my entire neighborhood is basically filled with mostly government workers and government contractors. This entire economy in the downtown Silver Spring area in Maryland is going to crash. I can already see it. I see vans moving people out. I go to the local grocery store, there's less people shopping. I go to the local stores, there's less people shopping. I go to the local restaurants, there's less people eating. And it's only going to get worse. This might be a lull right now because, for whatever reason, it was a little colder like the last few weeks. But in general, the economy here is not going to be doing very well. NOAA, the National Oceanic Administration, right? NOAA is an agency that is headquartered in Silver Spring, Maryland. They laid off thousands of workers that work around the corner from where I live. I want to say There are other agencies too that are around here. I just cannot give the specifics. That definitely probably are going to have layoffs as well. And I don't know why they would cut so many people at the same time. I don't think layoffs are bad. I don't think
layoffs are bad.
Layoffs are bad, right? But if they're being done because there's an absolute need to lay off people, like if you have a company and the company is tanking, let's say like Tesla right now, right? You can't keep paying the same you can't keep paying out the same amount of people if you don't have the same number of car orders coming in, right? So if you're not selling the product, how are you going to just keep making cars and keep paying people to make cars and keep paying people on that payroll in general? How are you going to keep the dealerships open? Like all across Tesla, there's going to have to be massive layoffs too, because no, I don't know if you've been following, but nobody's buying Teslas right now.
Yep.
Not nobody, but their stock is tanking, and a lot of people are just refusing to buy Elon's
People
product.
are selling Teslas even at a reduced price. Usually you want to sell a car, you want to sell it roughly to where you got it before, or at least a level where you can say, all right, because cars are depreciating assets. So
you never get what you paid for the car, by the way.
You don't.
No, you never owned a car.
No, I haven't. All right. So cars are depreciating assets. You never get what you paid for the car, but you at least want to get it to a level where you can say, fine, that's okay. But folks now are selling Teslas for like dirt cheap just because they don't want to even be associated with the damn car.
Right.
Like the Tesla brand has just tanked.
Oh, it's finished.
It's done.
Elon's brand in general has tanked. We could spend a minute on Elon because he is one of the reasons why we're going to have an induced recession. Elon Musk holds about $300 million in government contracts for his companies. He has Starlink, which is a company that helps with, I think it's a satellite company that helps with internet connections.
Yep.
And communication, telecom company, I believe.
Yeah.
He has, what's the company that has the brain chip?
Oh, let's not even talk about that dumb shit.
Right. Okay. So he has a company that he bought from a couple of people that started, but basically it was a company that was going to make a chip that was going to go into your brain to be able to download information. Obviously he has Tesla, and he has, what's the space company? SpaceX, and he has X, which was formerly Twitter. I want to say he also has the Boring Company, I believe, is also another one under his name, which was supposed to create tunnels.
That's a sham.
Where cars go into a tunnel, and kind of like
it's a hyperloop.
It's a hyperloop, but that was supposed to put cars on a kind of like, you could say like a moving escalator going one direction. It's basically a fast way to get from one point to the next. So imagine when you go in the airport, you have the briefcase and you have all your suitcases, and you get on that thing that kind of like you can just kind of stand and it still moves you. I forgot what it's called, but it was basically gonna be that for cars. So you would get on it, and then it would take your car. This was the idea behind it, and your car would just lay there, and it would push you through traffic underneath the tunnel. That was the Hyperloop, I believe.
Yes.
Boring, I think the Boring Company was supposed to create a tunnel between, I know one of the projects was supposed to be a tunnel between Washington, D.C. and New York. It was supposed to get you between New York and D.C. and so on and so forth in half an hour. And just to let y'all know, most of these projects have not been going very well. The brain chip company, the company was supposed to put the brain chip in
Didn't half the monkeys they tested on die?
Basically, they were dying, and the government was doing an investigation into how it was basically a lot of animal cruelty going on within that company. SpaceX has had a couple of rockets crash recently. What else? The Boring Company, I don't think
it's never done anything. It's a sham.
Right. It hasn't really done much of anything. The Hyperloop hasn't done anything.
No, it did a lot. It destroyed the argument for our high-speed rail in California for a while. Now, it failed because California is building its high-speed rail system that is, slightly over budget right now, as most transportation projects tend to be, but will net high positive benefits.
Right.
When
And
it
I will
finally
just
comes out.
and I'll jump in right there and just say I saw a report a long time ago on high-speed rail and the amount of billions of dollars that the US government put into the high-speed rail budgets for, I think, basically to connect all of the United States through high-speed rail systems, and just how little of that money has actually been used to make high-speed rail. High-speed rail in the United States is a joke, to say the least. I don't know where all of that money has gone. The Obama administration definitely pumped a ton of money into high-speed rail, and we don't know where it's gone. I can tell you from the DC metropolitan region, there was supposed to be high-speed rail from, at least on the East Coast, from Florida to at least Maine or Florida to New York. It never happened. To get from Maryland to New York City, I go all the time. It's still about 3.5 hours. I think that's insane compared to compared to Japan and China and even like Europe. They're much faster trains.
We should do a high-speed rail episode. I think that'd be a good topic.
Sure, you can do the research.
I shall.
I don't really care about it.
I'm a train nerd, so I definitely will.
Are you?
Yes, I am.
Oh wow, okay. So we're getting a little off topic there, but basically Elon Musk's companies are not doing very well. He had a lot of investigations going into a lot of his companies, basically looking into what he was doing with the money and what he was doing with these experiments. Another failed thing that he was doing is he said he was going to come out with a self-driving cars. I forgot the actual technical term of it, but he was going to come out with a self-driving Tesla that would operate as a taxi while you slept. Okay, so that's the way he was marketing it, and that's one of the reasons why too his company Tesla is identified as a tech company and not as a car company, and that's why it's like worth like $200 to $400 to $500 a share depending on what point in time.
It's the most overvalued stock
Yes.
in the U.S. stock exchange.
Right, but
Tesla, like shareholders who have stock in Tesla frequently talk about how Elon lies about, the company's financials. It's a black hole.
he definitely does.
Yeah, and he just like honestly, much like the entire Trump administration, it's just being propped together by vibes. Like
Right.
Tesla is overvalued. The AI that they want to use for their self-driving cars is dated.
It doesn't work. Like legit, it just doesn't work.
Not only does it not work, but it's dated. There are American and Chinese companies that are already more advanced when it comes to self-driving AI than Tesla.
Right, and the problem is he's already gotten a lot of government contracting money, a lot of government contracts to come out with these self-driving cars, and the money, like Rami said, that it's just going into a black hole. The guy isn't producing what he says he's going to produce. So one of the reasons why he pumped a lot of money into the Trump presidential campaign is because he knows Trump is someone that can be purchased. And he knew that if Kamala had become president, the investigations would have definitely continued, and probably his companies would have eventually just kind of tanked. And he would, I'm not saying he was going to be poor or anything, but he wasn't going to be viewed as this genius who's like has all these companies that are doing really great.
I think that's already gone out the window.
Yeah,
I think by 2018, Elon lost that Tony Stark aura that he was able to sell to the American public. People started to realize this guy's an idiot.
Right, but right now I think, he put together his little weird Doge team, and he's laid off all these government workers and government contractors, and it's going to culminate into an induced recession on our economy.
Yes,
And I lived through at least one recession, and it was really awful.
Recessions literally lower your ability to, they lower your lifetime earnings. All right, people actually usually don't bounce back from recessions. Like even if you make like a higher income after the recession, those years of earnings that you lost are pretty, it's not impossible, it's very difficult to make that back. If you were making like, $150,000 and you get laid off and then you have to spend a year or two trying to find a job due to a recession, that $300,000 in earnings doesn't come back overnight. Like,
no, it doesn't.
It will take like at least a decade or two for you to make that back, and even then it's like,
who could even fathom trying to make that money back? So basically, with recessions come increased job losses. Obviously, that's what a recession is. Well, not that obviously, but that's one of the things that come with a recession.
increased job loss, lower tax revenues for the government,
Right, reduced job prospects for people. So like Rami said, it's harder to bounce back.
and then companies lose money during recessions too, because to Fran's point earlier, no one's buying their shit.
No one's buying anything. There's slower wealth accumulation, as Rami said. There's reduced consumption. There's stricter lending on the banks and credit card companies. So if you want to buy a home, you want to buy a car, you want to buy anything that's like, I want to buy land, anything that you want to buy you're gonna need credit for, it's just gonna be harder to get. Then there's just increased stress and anxiety on people and families.
Yep.
And
Recessions lower your life expectancy too, particularly if you're a man and like you lose your job, because men, we associate ourselves with being a provider.
yeah,
If you can't provide, that's stress. In fact, during recessions, male suicide rates go up.
right. And then just in general, just happiness, the happiness scale for most people goes down in a recession, because if people can't provide for themselves and they're struggling, it's all whatchamacallit. There's side effects to that. If let's say, Rami, if you were the head of a household and you're struggling to find a job, you can't find work, then you'll be at home, miserable, can't provide for your family. And it's not like Europe, where they have all these social programs in place where you might be miserable at home, but you won't miss like a mortgage payment, or you won't miss a rent payment. In the United States, it's not like that. You will miss payments.
You sure will.
And
Your credit will go down.
your credit score will go down, and you will get frustrated. And let's say if you were married, you will get angry with your wife because you'll be frustrated. Frustrated people tend to be angry. And then the wife will get mad with the kids, and then the kids will get mad at the dog, and the dog will get mad at the cat.
And then the cat will get mad at the squirrel, and the squirrel will get mad at the tree.
Right.
Like waterfalls.
It'll be increased anxiety within most households, and it's just not good in general. And I'm glad you mentioned how male suicide increases during recession. During the 2008 recession, I remember listening to an NPR report that talked about suicides in general in the United States just going up because people just couldn't take it.
Yeah.
2008, the entire world economy tanked. There were people who were millionaires one day that woke up and had nothing.
Yeah.
Like they woke up to $0 in their stock accounts and their IRAs and maybe not zero, but like they lost a tremendous amount of wealth. Okay, so there are people with retirement accounts that basically got mostly cleaned out because all the investments they had made crashed at the same time. There were people at my one of my jobs where I was working that would be like almost pulling their hair out looking at the stocks crashing.
Your retirement savings, like our 401ks are cooked.
Yeah.
Those shits are done. All right. When this Trump recession really hits, when that shit is zero,
Wow.
I'm just gonna
$3,000 is gonna go down to zilch.
Yeah, no. Like, listen, I'm gonna just giggle. You know what I mean? Like this crash is gonna wipe everything out. And you see, like, Fran, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. It's just like the thing with this crash too is that it's just not one thing. All right.
It's a lot of things.
You have these government workers being fired. Okay. You have Trump trying to deport people, and this is going to affect industries that need, honestly, all these migrant laborers and workers, like, nursing, agriculture.
Listen, you have babysitting, you have hotels, restaurants, nightclubs, anywhere. Yeah, like you said, nursing homes. The underground economy for immigrant workers, or undocumented people, it's like a $10 billion, I think, industry.
And these people pay tax. Like, that's the thing. People think that, like, migrant workers like who are undocumented here get everything. That's literally not
Right.
true. They
But-
literally pay into Social Security and don't get a dime of Social Security.
Right, and we're not gonna go too deep into that because we talked about that on other episodes. But basically, we're going into a recession that did not need to happen.
Nope, not at all.
And one of the things I think people need to start thinking about is why would a government induce a recession on its people unnecessarily?
Because it is necessary for them. Because you have to understand the Trump economic worldview. The Trump economic worldview functions on 4 different foundational beams, all right?
So what is it? What are the 4?
1, all right, 0 sum, okay? There is always a winner and a loser. America,
That's very Trumpian.
yeah, America must win. And if we have a trade deal with another country that benefits both of us, it's actually a loss because America won and this other country didn't lose.
Okay, what's the next one?
The next one is the idea of crushing worker power, okay?
Definitely.
That's why Trump signed that executive order on Friday that made it illegal for federal workers to collectively bargain. Now, if you are in a union but you can't collectively bargain,
What's the point of being in the union?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
crazy.
That's like saying you're a firefighter but then you can't use water on fires. It doesn't make sense.
Right, that's literally the point of a union.
Yeah. And so by crushing that worker power, okay, and by destroying the economy, Trump wants us to have this
Can I ask though, is that even legal though?
No, he can't do that.
Okay, so I'm so tired of these executive orders that are even against the law. So okay, continue. What's the next thing? Because I don't want to talk about it.
Sure, no problem. And this kind of relates to point 1, but tariffs, he wants to build autarky, okay? And autarky is a economic theory that countries should produce everything that they use. It is completely against free trade or even the concept of trade. It's this idea that a country must be strong so it can be in order for a country to be strong, it must be self-sufficient. So it must produce everything that it uses.
That is just ridiculous, and we went way too far into trading.
Yes.
I'm so exhausted. Look, we don't make any clothes in this country.
Nope.
All right, even if your tag says made in America, it's not made in America.
Nope.
It's probably made in America in a prison, which is bizarre within itself. It might be American Samoa. It's a U.S. territory. It's not made within the United States, by one of your cousins or someone you might know in a state. Our clothes are made in China for about 25 cents or 50 cents an hour. I don't know what they pay their workers there nowadays. And the markup on the item when it's put together typically is something like 5,000%. We are not making clothes in the United States. You would have to pay someone here probably $15 to $20 an hour to actually make the garments that are made in China for 25 to 50 cents an hour. Okay, so compare 25 to 50 cents an hour for labor. I haven't looked into these things in a really long time, but it's dirt cheap to produce things in China compared to the United States, where if you're working in a factory, you're probably going to make between $40,000 and $50,000 a year. It's not happening. There's absolutely no comparison. We live in a world where you can get a car, but the parts were made in the United States,
It's so funny.
assembled in Mexico, and the engine came from fucking Germany.
No, but that's the thing.
The metal came from China.
No, to your
right?
point, friend.
And then somehow it comes together and it's given to you as a product, but it's now a
your average American car,
concerted effort
your
to
average American car
bring
is
a
only,
product together.
It's only made of 20% American parts. You know what I mean? If you buy, it's so funny. If you buy a European car in the United States, you're more likely to have a more American car than say if you go buy a G, or a car from not G, I'm sorry, or a car from GM
Right.
or Ford. Well, those cars are made with 20% American parts, and then they're assembled in Mexico. This is
Right.
cheaper.
And the problem with everything the way it is right now is that there are supply chains now that are just all over the place.
Yep.
How are we going to make these supply chains now? How are we bringing all these supply chains from all over the world into the United States?
You can't.
The reason why factories left the United States, I want to say in the 60s and 70s, is because it was just cheaper to make a lot of our goods overseas. And our government allowed this.
Yep.
All right. They sent a lot of our production to Vietnam and China and India and other third world countries where there were just people who were desperate enough to work for basically close to nothing because the US dollar is just worth so much in other countries.
And you see, like, and to your point, that's also what they want to do. And that's the last thing. They want to devalue the US dollar. All right. Trump, for all his China bashing, wants a Chinese economy. He wants an economy where workers have no rights. Like, here's the thing. People call China like hyper left wing, but it's really not. Like, if you try to start a union in China, they'll put you in jail. Like, it is illegal to start. There's one union in China. I forget what it's called.
Right.
But
let's not get too far into it, though.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying it's controlled by the government. And if you try to start anything outside of it, they will put you in prison. All right.
Right.
Trump wants an economy where the American worker has no real ability to argue for a better job or a better living. They want us to produce things. They want us to go from the services economy that we have now to the manufacturing economy of the past. The problem is that takes decades of long-term strategic and economic planning that the Trump administration is too dumb and too short-sighted to ever really engage in. And it was America actually produces quite a bit. We manufacture a lot. The problem is that, the thing about our manufacturing is that we produce things that, like, the average American consumer cannot really buy, like rocket parts, for example. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Rocket parts. So I'm so tired of hearing a lot of people talk about, so the right says we've given Ukraine all this money and they can't win the war. Da, da, da. Okay, look, we do not really give money to Ukraine.
Nope.
We give them
literally coupons, and of course, I'm sure there's some money that trickles into the country, but typically it's coupons to buy American weapons from maybe what is it, Boeing? Who makes our weapons? Lockheed Martin. Okay, so BAE Systems.
Right. So that is one of the biggest industries in the United States is the war industry. We all know America loves a good war. We are really good at making killing systems. Okay, we make bombs, we make uniforms, we make tanks, grenades, F-15s. What do they call? What the fire jets called? F-35s.
Yeah, F-35s. Yeah.
We are good at making weapon systems and weapons communication systems. That is what Ukraine is literally buying from us. They're gonna be, that's what it is. It's not that they're getting cash money from us. When you hear, they're getting $2 billion, it's like, no. There are people in, I don't know what parts of this country. I'm gonna say Washington State. I know BAE Systems. I feel like there's a bunch of...
No, but those factories are in places like Kansas. Those are Nebraska. Here's the thing. This Trump recession, it's going to hurt everybody, but red states are fucked.
Yeah.
Red states are fucked because the tariffs, you already have Canada selectively targeting red states with their tariffs. Like, stuff that is made in red states are being
taken off the shelves, honey.
Literally taken off the shelves.
Legit taken off the shelves.
And then, not to mention, these red states are too poor and they don't have the social safety net to support their people when this recession happens. So, those states are cooked. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm sure the Trump voters will find some way to blame black people, trans people, and women for why this happened rather than Trump. They're lost and they're allergic to facts. But here's the thing. That bigotry, they can't eat that shit. All right? They can't pay their mortgage hating black people. All right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think this time around, I hope people can see that, look, these tariffs, Trump was the one talking about tariffs on TV 24/7 and scared a whole bunch of countries into basically saying, all right, well, then we're just not going to sell your stuff. We'll just take all your things off of our shelves.
But I want to go back to
what's the fourth pillar, though? You said zero sum, crushing worker power, tariffs, and what's the fourth pillar?
Well, the third one was autarky, or the idea that we have to create a self-sufficient...
self-sufficient, that's right. Okay.
America. But then the last one is really just devaluing the U.S. dollar.
Oh, yeah, you said that.
And changing the U.S. economy from a services economy to this manufacturing economy. And, the last one is really dumb, too, because it's not based on any real economic idea or value.
Right.
It's based on this, machismo masculine idea that men are feminized because we have office jobs now, or many men have office jobs. Because don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of men who work in blue collar, or like positions, or like factories and stuff like that. But like, it's this idea that men must be real men by doing hard labor, and so.
Which is just silly.
It is silly, but like what you're gonna get now is like in places like Florida, for example, they're deporting all these migrant undocumented workers, and they're replacing those workers with children because they argue.
Oh my God, I heard about that.
Yeah.
Oh, that was shocking.
Well, no, like I remember last summer there was that horrible story about that little white boy out somewhere, I think in Wisconsin. He was working illegally at a sawmill and he fell into the saw and died. You know what I mean?
Like, oh my God.
And that's what you're seeing in a lot of red states. You see a lot of red states repealing child labor laws because they want children to go back into these dangerous positions and jobs. They want,
so weird.
Like that's the thing. They want the economy of like the 1910s or 1920s. They want children doing dangerous shit. All right. They want high tariffs. They want lots of dirty industrial manufacturing that destroys the economy.
Which is so weird.
In exchange for Americans like putting in like 12-hour shifts for like $15 an hour. Like this is what they want. They want a poor, like less like in like they want a poor, less advanced America so that they can control it. And they want a government that does less, like back in the like Great Depression where the US government giggled for like 4 years until FDR came into office and said, no, actually, like, we actually have to, help people and not make sure that people don't starve to death.
Right. Yeah, so, I mean, the topic is the incoming Trump recession, so maybe I'll just have a couple questions for you, Rami. What do you think, I know you just said basically the end game. I was going to ask about what do you think the end game is, but I think you just answered that. What do you think people can do to stop this madness?
Well, we have to vote Trump out of office. In order to stop this madness, we need to it's not even about voting Trump out. We have to destroy the Republican Party. The Republican Party is literally a threat to humanity. All right, they want to start a global war. They don't believe in climate change. I know.
What is this global war crazy stuff? Every time I hear about stuff about Greenland, I'm like, Greenland's part of NATO. Like, what are you even talking about?
Essentially, as Americans, we have to put Trumpism in the dustbin of history. This shit is dumb. And I think the only way that we're going to learn this is when there's no social security and everyone's literally just on the streets poor. All right.
No, that would be crazy. I don't think it's going to get to that.
I think it will. I think that's the problem. I think Americans truly believe bad things don't happen to America, and that because I think that's what happened with this election. I think there's a lot of Americans who think their vote didn't matter, that they'll vote for Trump because nothing will really change, and that the government doesn't do anything because those people are fucking stupid. And then what's going to happen...
That's not fair, Rami.
No, I think that is what it is. And I think that a lot of these people are going to have to be punched in the face repeatedly until they literally have swollen eyes and a broken nose and no teeth. And that's when they're going to realize that the federal government actually does shit. There are too many dumbasses who really think that clean water just happens and just comes out of a faucet, rather than it taking years and years of industrial planning and scientific achievement funded by the federal government in order to get us the modern society that we have today. Okay,
so what do you say to someone, because I've seen videos online of some people who are just look, I'm in my early 40s and I've gone through now, the recession of 2008, right? Went through the Trump recession of 2020. And basically what they keep saying is, look, you can't really have a job for that long because eventually you will get laid off. No matter how much savings you do have, if you're laid off for too long, then you lose all your savings. Then you get a job, you get back on your feet, here comes another recession. You save some money. Basically what I'm seeing online is that a lot of younger people in their 30s and 40s are we just can't win. We can't afford a home. We can barely afford a car. We can't afford to make a family. What do you tell people who have tried living within the system and see that both parties really don't make a big difference in their life?
I think honestly what we need to do is invest in people like AOC and Bernie Sanders, because the one thing I'll give MAGA people is that the current system does suck. The problem is that their response to that is that we just need to make sure that Black people, women, and gay people and immigrants have no rights, which doesn't really solve anything because those people are dumb. What we need is a government that is invested in making sure that Americans have more. Okay,
I agree with that.
We need like
we do need like the crazy thing is like right now I saw that the Trump administration is dismantling the Department of Education. I will say that I would not ever think of doing anything like that. I think that is just wild to do. However, I will say that the education system within the United States is really, really antiquated. And we're in the 21st century, and I don't think we give our kids the tools to like really compete against kids in Europe and kids in China and kids in other countries where their educational systems are just far more advanced than ours. Ours is just old, and it doesn't work anymore.
Well, it's unequal.
Yeah, it's very unequal, but it's also just old. Like, I feel like when I hear like my friends' kids, I have friends with kids who are in school, and I hear what they're learning, I'm like, why are they learning this crap? Like, this is stuff that like does not need to be really learned anymore. Like, we have calculators. Why are we making kids learn division tables anymore? I'm just saying. I'm not saying they shouldn't know like general division and multiplication, but the calculator does it really, really quickly. Why are they learning all these times? Well, they should be learning something else. Like,
I think there's actually a value though to like knowing in your mind visually, this is how the division is happening. Like if you see 36 divided by 9, it's useful to say, oh, that means that like 9 makes up X amount of 36. And so I need to figure out how much of 36 is made up of 9. Oh, the answer is 4. You know what I mean? I think that's
100%. Useful. However, my thinking is more along the lines of in the Stone Ages where, you know, you weren't going to be more of anything but like maybe, I don't know, a mason, or as a woman, maybe you were just going to be a childbearer and you're going to cook and clean till the day you died. Going to school and learning 9 times 4 is 36 and 36 divided by 9 is 4 might have made sense. And, you know, learning your time, like I know my times table from 1 to 12, right? So, but I learned that in the 80s. Why are my friends' kids learning these times tables the same way I was learning them? I'm just like, it's kooky to me because I'm like, I didn't have a calculator, but that's another story. That I think we're going down the deep end.
To go back to what I was saying earlier, we also need to crush oligarchy, and we need to crush the wealthy. All right, like I'm sorry, like we need to.
That I will say here too.
We need a larger.
We definitely need to crush oligarchy.
Elon Musk,
these billionaires and next to the president is not a good idea.
We need to raise taxes on the wealthy.
Yes.
And not only that, we need to curtail their wealth. We need to take their wealth from them. All right? And then redistribute it back to the people.
So go look back, because we're going to end this today, in the 1950s. See how the greatest generation built their wealth. It was basically from taxing the rich.
Yep.
So after you hit a certain point, I forgot what the dollar amount was, but you would just get taxed at 50%. So imagine if Elon and Zuckerberg and all these big rich families like the Rothschilds and the Pierces and who are the other big rich families? The Rockefellers, like and then all these other rich gazillionaires that are out there that you don't know about. Imagine if they have to pay 50% of their salary in taxes. How much more we could take and distribute to everyone, especially the elderly, children, mothers without men in the house, or main breadwinners in the house. Imagine how much good we could do if we collected a fair amount of taxes from people who have way too much money that they're never ever going to use or need. Mm-hmm. And also look into a guy named Scott Galloway. He talked about once he reached like $10 million, he's like, he realized you're never really going to be more happy after something like, even 10 million is such an astronomical number But he's like, after $10 million, he's like, you should just give away your money. He's like,
Fran,
what
are
do
you arguing for a maximum wealth? Because that's really
Yes.
radical. All right, now that's radical.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
maximum wealth. Maybe maximum wealth should be like 100 million. You know, maybe not even 10 million.
No,
But after
every billionaire
100
is a policy failure.
Yeah, after 100 million, it's like, how much more money do you need? Maybe also like there should just be a point where you reach and it's like, okay, you're set for life. Like, here's a black card. Just go buy whatever the hell you want and like live your best life.
Yeah.
But you've won the human game. But we can't have someone like, you know, these gazillionaires, these Elon Musk, until his stupid Doge nonsense, right? And cutting all these federal government workers and getting all this negative press from the stupid tariffs that Trump's doing, right? Was on his way to being the first trillionaire.
Oh, you know what?
Like, what would you do with $1 trillion?
I agree.
What would you do with it?
No, and you know what? Last thing, we need a Democratic Party that argues for government. All right, and I know it's like, because there's so much.
We need a new party.
No,
like us as a country.
Well, hold on, let me finish this.
The Republicans are terrible.
Hold on, but Fran, let me finish.
Democrats are not. They're too convoluted in policy and freaking red
but
tape.
Hold on, Fran, can I finish this?
We need a new party. Yeah.
All right. We need a party that argues for government. Government is good. Government workers do a lot.
I do agree.
All right, like, and Americans need to be we need a party that says no, that your livelihood is dependent on the federal government doing things. All right, like the federal government doing lots of stuff is actually good for the average American. The federal government works to protect Americans. Now, don't get me wrong. The federal government also does work to protect the interests of wealthy people and blah blah blah. But like that's true.
That's true.
We do need a functioning federal government that needs to care about people. Because here's the thing: Americans want a fucking government that runs like a business. You're gonna see what happens. All right.
You're about to FAFO. Fuck around and find out.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, but if you want to hear what the federal government does, I listed just a few things in our last episode called the federal government firings or federal firings. I forgot what it was called. But you can look at that episode in the very beginning. I specifically lay out what the government does for you on an everyday basis, and Rami too, and it's quite a lot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but we're gonna end it today.
Yep.
I'm gonna wish everyone a speedy rush through this recession. I hope everyone makes it out unscathed. I pray for everyone who, you know, doesn't have a hand to hold or people to help them through this, because I think it's gonna be really ugly.
Mm-hmm. And you know, you can see us outside by the guillotine on the right when we come for the wealthy people.
I'm not with that. But yeah, with that, we'll see you on the next episode of Hold My Love. Bye.
Take care, everyone. Have a good night.